Camera opens, wide-angle shot of the stage, bright lights. Studio audience murmuring in anticipation. The backdrop flashes. The People's Perspective, live. Host, Mason Blake. Welcome back to The People's Perspective. Tonight, we're joined by someone who's no stranger to controversy. Known for his old school views in a new age world, Senator John Kennedy of Louisiana. Senator, thank you for being here. Kennedy leans forward, smiling. Mason, thanks for having me. I always enjoy a good old-fashioned ambush disguised as a conversation. Audience chuckles softly. The host raises an eyebrow. Mason, let's get right into it. You've been vocal against what many are calling the progressive movement. Some say you're out of touch. Others say you're dangerous. Where do you stand, Senator? Do you think America is moving forward, or are you trying to drag it backward? Kennedy. Well, Mason, let me put it this way. If progress means telling 5-year-olds they might be born in the wrong body, tearing down statues of George Washington, and saying hard work is a tool of white supremacy, then yeah, you can count me out of that parade. Audience murmurs. A few clap. Mason interjects quickly. Mason, but isn't that a caricature? No serious movement is pushing those extremes, Senator. Kennedy tilts his head. No offense, son, but either you're not watching the same news as the rest of us, or you're ignoring it with both eyes open. I'm not making this stuff up. I'm just quoting their own manifestos. You want footnotes? Mason, smirking. We're not here to cite Twitter threads, Senator. Let's talk policy. You opposed a recent bill that would have required all federal employees to undergo annual DEI training. Why? Kennedy, dryly. Because I don't think we need government-funded guilt trips dressed up as seminars. I believe in equality or not indoctrination. Mason. Indoctrination or education? Senator, are you saying bias doesn't exist in government institutions? Kennedy straightens in his seat. Bias exists. You can't legislate it out of the human heart. But here's the trick, Mason. You don't fight racism with reverse racism. Telling people they're oppressors based on their skin color ain't justice. It's just a new kind of bigotry. Wearing a fancy hat. The audience murmurs louder now. A few mm-hms and whispers ripple through. Mason, voice sharper. Senator, with respect, your critics say you hide behind folksy charm while pushing dangerous rhetoric. Isn't it convenient to use plain speak to defend outdated ideas? Kennedy, smiling coolly. Well, Mason, I'd rather be plain than plastic. I speak in a way that folks from Baton Rouge to Boise can understand. And if old-fashioned means not losing, my mind every time someone says, Merry Christmas, then I'll wear that badge proudly. Laughter and applause erupt briefly from a portion of the crowd. Mason, leaning in now. Let's talk values, then. You say America's losing its soul. What does that mean? Kennedy. It means we used to teach kids about character, not just identity. It means we believed in free speech, not safe speech. And it means we solve problems together, not by labeling everyone who disagreed as a bigot, a fascist, or worse. Mason. But isn't that just nostalgia talking? The past wasn't perfect, Senator. We had segregation, discrimination, repression. Kennedy, voice steely now. You're right. We had all that. And we fought it. We marched, we bled, we legislated. But we didn't replace one wrong with another. You don't heal a wound by punching the other arm. You heal it by telling the truth, working hard, and refusing to see each other as enemies. Sudden silence in the studio. Mason looks down at his note cards. Something shifted. Mason, quieter. What would you say to a young, progressive viewer watching right now who believes the system is rigged against them? Kennedy, softly but firmly. I'd tell him this. You matter. Your voice counts. But don't let anger be your compass. Don't let hashtags be your history. And don't you dare believe that burning everything down is the same as building something better. A few audience members clap slowly. Mason glances toward producers nervously, then continues. Mason, some say you're part of the problem. That men like you cling to power by resisting change. Kennedy, Mason, I don't cling to anything. I stand on principles that built this country. Not perfect ones, but strong ones. And let me tell you, change for the sake of change ain't progress. It's just motion. And sometimes it's motion straight off a cliff. Gasps. The camera cuts to audience members whispering, some nodding. Mason, so you reject the entire progressive movement? Kennedy, I reject anything that divides us to empower the loudest few. I reject the idea that victimhood is a virtue. And I reject the notion that patriotism is a punchline. You want real progress? Try respect. Try responsibility. Try not screaming every time someone disagrees with you. Mason, visibly flustered. But surely you see that language like yours can be harmful. Kennedy, calmly. Truth ain't harmful. Mason. It's just loud when people aren't used to hearing it. Cut to black. The show goes to commercial, but the tension lingers in the air like gunpowder. Camera opens, post-show segment. The official broadcast is over. But cameras are still rolling for an online bonus segment. The studio lights are slightly dimmed. The mood is rawer, more vulnerable. Audience still present. Mason, removing his mic slightly. Senator, we're off air now. But I'd like to continue if you're willing. This part won't make it to the live broadcast. It's just for our digital audience. Kennedy leans back, jacket unbuttoned. I reckon sometimes the real conversations happen when the red light turns off. Mason, quieter, more personal. You said something earlier that stuck with me. About planting trees you may never sit under. Do you ever wonder if your tree is growing in poisoned soil? Kennedy, after a pause. Every gardener fights weeds, Mason. Some days it feels hopeless. But you water it anyway because not trying is worse. Mason. But how do you stay calm? The attacks, the social media storms? Even tonight. Half the audience loved you, the other half looked ready to boo you off stage. Kennedy. I stay calm because I ain't trying to win a popularity contest. I'm trying to leave this country a little saner than I found it. Mason, genuinely reflective. You know, I started this show to ask hard questions, to hold people accountable. But somewhere along the way, I think I started mistaking control for truth. Silencing people instead of hearing them. Kennedy, watching him closely. That's a brave thing to admit. Mason, most folks don't have the guts to say that out loud. Especially on their own stage. Mason, smiling bitterly. You tore apart my script tonight, line by line. But you didn't do it to humiliate me. You did it to wake me up, didn't you? Kennedy, softly. I did it because the truth matters. And sometimes it takes a little fire to burn away the fog. Audience is quiet, but tuned in like it's church. You could hear a pin drop. Mason, do you think America's still redeemable? Kennedy. Only if we stop shouting and start listening. Only if we quit sorting each other by hashtags and start seeing each other as people again. Mason. And if we don't? Kennedy, voice firm. Then we're not a country anymore. We're just a bunch of tribes with Wi-Fi and flags. A beat of silence. Then a woman in the audience suddenly stands. Audience woman, emotionally. Senator Kennedy. I'm one of those woke progressives you just spent the last hour criticizing. And I disagreed with half of what you said. But for the first time in years, I didn't feel hated for disagreeing. You looked me in the eye. You didn't call me names. You made me think. The crowd shifts. People turn toward her. Mason watches, stunned. Kennedy, warmly. Ma'am, I don't need everyone to agree with me. I just need folks to understand where I'm coming from. That's how bridges are built. Plank by honest plank. Mason, clears throat, visibly moved. This wasn't how I expected tonight to go. I thought I'd control the narrative. But you made me feel like a guest on my own stage. Kennedy, smirking slightly. That's because truth don't need permission to walk in the room. It just needs space. More audience members clap. Some stand. The energy in the room has shifted from tense to transformed. Mason, after a deep breath. All right, one last thing. If you had to write the last line of America's story, what would it be? Kennedy, eyes locked on Mason, then looked straight into the camera. We remembered who we were, just in time. That'd be the line. Long, deep silence. Then applause. Not wild, not political, but human. Camera opens. Post-show, behind the scenes. The studio is almost empty. Crew packing up. Lights dimmed. Mason and Kennedy sit across from each other. Quieter now. Two men who just walked through fire and shook hands. Mason. You know what the scariest part of tonight was? Kennedy. What's that? Mason, looking down. Realizing how many of my questions weren't really questions. They were attacks. Dressed up in polite tones. Kennedy, softly. That's what fear does. It don't always scream. Sometimes it just smiles and plays smart. But deep down, it's still afraid of being wrong. Mason. So what should someone like me do now? I mean that genuinely. Kennedy. Start by listening more than speaking. Then speak like you're talking to someone you care about, even when you disagree. And most of all, don't chase applause. Chase the truth. Pause. Kennedy stands, buttons his coat. Mason rises too. Mason. You think we'll be all right, Senator? Kennedy, smiling faintly. Only if we start remembering that America isn't just a place. It's a promise. And promises need keepers. Suddenly, a young intern rushes over with a notepad and phone. Nervous. Intern. Senator Kennedy, I'm sorry, just one quick question. You've gone viral already. Millions are watching. What would you say is the takeaway tonight? Just one sentence? Kennedy looks her in the eye, then speaks with quiet thunder. You don't have to burn down the house to rearrange the furniture. Sometimes all you need is to open a window. Stunned silence. She slowly nods, eyes wide. Mason, softly. That's your closing line? Kennedy walking away slowly. No, son. That's the beginning. Fade out. Black screen. The American flag waves in silence.